Okay, I think I'm all set up. Hi, Emily. Good to see you. Okay, so I went through the episode. They actually had 2 episodes from this restaurant, where Kitchen Nightmares went into Amy's baking company, and well, it was pretty controversial because they actually didn't end up finish filming. And then there's a recap episode where they returned and got an update from the couple. And then there was a lot of information online because they did a lot of news interviews and stuff too. So there was a lot to put into this one. Anyway, I hope you like it. Let's start it up. Amy's Baking Company in Scottsdale, Arizona opened in 2007 by couple Amy and Samy. Amy says at a young age she discovered her passion and talent for cooking. She convinced Samy to invest $1 million into the restaurant to help Amy's dream come true. They applied for the TV show Kitchen Nightmares with host Gordon Ramsay in 2012, looking for help with their online presence. The show set out to interview the couple and created an audition tape. Their episode aired in 2013 and they became an internet sensation for their online antics and behavior in general. Let's start with the audition tape. Amy says one of the biggest problems with the restaurant is her husband Samy being too nervous in the dining room. Samy says he runs around like a chicken with his head cut off, not knowing where to start. Okay, so this was neat. In the bonus, or not bonus, I guess the return episode, they put in some of their submission video. So I put that at the start, so you kind of get an idea of them before they go into the restaurant, rather than showing this after you've already seen all their antics. Amy says her husband needs to be removed from the restaurant. One of the kitchen staff says that she thinks a lot of people don't come back because of something Samy had said to them, since his first reaction is to yell. Amy says a few occasional times, her words, not mine, Samy has had an incident with customers, but she herself has also had some, saying no one is perfect. She says when people come in and aren't nice, they aren't going to be nice to them either. Amy brings up the online reviews being an issue for them because of the negativity people are sending their way via Yelp. In one incident, she said she retaliated by telling him how unintelligent he is and that he was not welcome back in the restaurant. This is the review that set Amy off. In retrospect, I should have known better than to step into Amy's baking company. 8 p.m. on a Saturday, 3 tables are occupied. A sign on the door indicated they're looking for an experienced line cook, a dishwasher, waitresses, you name it. These are all bad signs. They go ignored, however, because I'd eaten one thing all day, and I drove there to try their pizza. Never, ever again. The waitress brings me out a water and menu to the table for one, a patio, which I had all to myself. Browsing the apps, I was pleasantly surprised to see several things priced at $3 each. Seemed like a bargain, given the high price of everything else. $3 sounded like a great deal, but I was informed that it didn't come with anything. It was $3 extra for bread. Since I was solo, I decided to skip it and instead pay $14 for a 12-inch margarita pizza. I cannot for the life of me recommend this restaurant to anyone. This is all it took for Amy to begin her online campaign to stop the reviews. While Amy is trying to record her audition tape, Samy starts yelling at someone, disrupting the filming.
What's up?
We had to stop because you were talking. That's okay.
One of the kitchen staff says that this is the only restaurant she's worked in where they aren't allowed to talk to each other. Gordon isn't going to like that. When filming begins, the lady on the left is the only one of the 3 that still work there. She doesn't speak once throughout the episode. The no talking rule in the kitchen might explain why. Yeah, this is so funny because this girl doesn't talk the whole episode. And I didn't see the audition tape until after I'd already covered all the other stuff. So it was just kind of funny. This is like the only time she talks.
Stop talking, everyone, stop, get out, no talking. I'm out here all by myself, screaming.
She says the smallest thing going wrong can set the couple off, and then they feed off each other, making a bigger deal than it actually was. Amy stops the interview, saying she is distracted with all the things happening behind her, causing her to forget the question being asked. The lady on the right says if customers come in and don't spend more than $100, they aren't treated like a returning customer by Samy.
Spectacular! My food is the best, I'm telling you.
Amy has been having trouble with people leaving negative reviews online regarding the restaurant's food and atmosphere. Amy says this is the reason for the decline in customers. Samy says when customers tell him his wife's food is not good, he tells them to leave and not to come back. Amy says if Samy doesn't tell them to leave, she will. One of their servers describes Amy's behavior as 1 minute being a nice little Care Bear, then the next Cruella de Vil. She had this to say about her.
Amy's nuts.
Amy says the locals think they will be chased out and yelled at if they dine in their restaurant. She says that is not who she and Samy are. This is followed by a clip of Amy going outside and saying this to a customer.
Keep walking, mister. You just keep walking.
Samy believes Chef Ramsay will be telling people the food is great at ABC. They're basically looking for confirmation from a professional that it is everyone else's fault for the restaurant being quiet, not because of their food and personalities. The server thinks Gordon is wasting his time because nothing is going to change the couple. She might be right. In the beginning of the episode, the cameras are rolling in the restaurant a day before Chef Ramsay is set to arrive. This whole night is a mess for them. It's probably like the most that they're not tolerating any of the customers. I don't know, maybe they act a little more civil when Ramsay's there, but maybe they're just not used to having the cameras there. So they're just kind of acting natural. We learn that they have servers who take the orders, delivers the food, and gives the checks to the tables. But it is only Samy who puts the orders into the system, pours the alcohol, and who picks up the checks from the tables or handles any transactions. Samy likes to have control over everything, but gets flustered easily when given an extra task.
I cannot work, I can't.
Amy likes to take her time when cooking to the point where she only cooks one table at a time and ignores the rest of the tickets until the one she is working on is served. That means customers wait for a long time for their food to arrive. The guy in the Ross Geller salmon shirt comments that it is the longest pizza he's ever waited for.
I've never waited this long for one pizza.
When the food finally arrives to another table and there is a complaint about it, Samy doesn't take it well. The customer says to Samy that the Caesar salad doesn't taste right, but isn't sure how to describe it. He must come up with a description for Samy, who starts to say if he doesn't know what's wrong with it, what can he do to fix it? The customer says that it has too much raw egg in it. Samy ignores him and says if he came to eat to enjoy it, then he should know what he likes, and walks away with the salad. There's a customer in the background enjoying the show, but most likely isn't going to enjoy his dinner.
Apparently you don't know what you like to eat.
Guess not.
When Samy Janelle, that's too funny. Asks Amy to make another salad to replace the Caesar, she says, seriously? To which Samy replies,
Don't worry, I told him to f*** off.
and of course, the customer can hear him yelling from the kitchen, trying to sound tough to Amy. Another customer tells the waitress that her pizza is not cooked enough and asks to have it put back in the oven for a few minutes. When the waitress brings the pizza back to Samy, oh my gosh, Amy's reaction to this is so ridiculous. He actually acts reasonably by asking Amy to put it in the oven for a few minutes. And of course, Amy is insulted and says,
Sure, I'll burn it for them.
then says the food they are cooking is going in it was so quick, but she said, sure, I'll burn it for them. The trash when there are starving people in the world. She says they are doing it because they want to
Come with my life.
It might find its way to the garbage if she were to burn it for them. Or she could calm down, put the pizza back in the oven to finish cooking, and make a few bucks on a pizza. The couple looking at their watches earlier decide an hour and a half is long enough to wait on food, and they are leaving. When Amy hears this, she has this to say to them.
You guys are full of shit.
When Samy goes back to tell Amy to stop cooking their order, she tells him it is ready, but it's really in the oven. Samy says that he doesn't care they are leaving, so stop it. Not sure how she's gonna stop cooking the finished dish unless it's undercooked like the last pizza. The two guys waiting on the one pizza also get impatient. When Samy says it is coming, he says to Samy that he has been saying that for the last hour. Amy overhears the guy and says, look at him, he's like, where's my pizza? Of course he hears her say this.
Really?
Samy tells the guy that if he wants to wait, he can wait. If he doesn't, he can pay for his drink and he can...
Come from here.
Amy watches out back until Samy starts to lose his cool on the guy, demanding he pay for his drinks and leave. But not before Amy gets in a few words. Amy tries to calm Samy down. He pushes her off of him while she yells for Samy to call the police on the guy asking about the pizza. As the guy walks away, so does Amy. Samy goes looking for her and she says she's in the office, to which Samy asks her if she's crazy and not to call the police. He then asks her where the pizza is and she says it's in the oven and he can suck it. Samy isn't finished with the pizza guys and he confronts them at the door. He says they have to pay for their order and even tried to physically intimidate the quiet one of the two. Of course, the diners are watching the show. How could they not? Samy actually shoves the guy, telling him to leave. The camera crew steps in just as Samy remembers they're recording him. Then he turns his attention to the other one. When asked if he was kidding, Samy says some choice words and tells him he is not eating there before telling the camera crew he wants them to pay for their order. It's pretty obvious it's Samy causing the scene, but Amy comes rushing out with her phone saying she is calling the police because they are crazy. Of course, Samy doesn't want her to call the police. Amy has some words for them as they leave the restaurant, telling them to never come back.
You are a little pansy. Get out of here. Don't you ever come back.
When the couple comes back into the restaurant, Amy starts telling the dining room that she makes excellent food as they all watch in awe. Caesar salad guy and undercooked pizza lady didn't think her food was excellent. Meanwhile, the waitress is doing her job as if this is just a normal occurrence at Amy's baking company. Before storming off into the kitchen, Amy says she's not sure why people think they can come into her restaurant saying such negative things about her food, and that she has never seen anything like this before. This ends the night of filming. It's the next day, and Chef Ramsay is going in without knowing about all the events that took place the previous evening. We open with a foreshadowing shot of Gordon walking through the steam outside the restaurant. Samy puts on his best smile and greets Chef Ramsay with open arms. Oh, they're so excited to see him come in. And the whole time they think he's going to come in and confirm that it's everyone else's problem. That they don't want to go in. Not that these two are unstable. And basically chasing people out of the restaurant. The first thing that catches his eye is the nice desserts they have at the front counter, all made by Amy. He asks to meet Amy, and Samy gives her a glowing introduction as the creator of all the beautiful desserts. When Amy tells Gordon that she makes all the desserts herself and is the head chef, he tells Samy that he got lucky. Amy seems to get defensive at the remark, saying that she is the lucky one, that Samy is her soulmate. She says they have had to stand strong together because of the amount of online bullies and haters. She says they stand up to them and think they are the only ones who have as restaurant owners. She says most of the bullies are used to eating processed wood chips or getting stuff for free.
Did I mention I am a food critic for Yelp?
Yes, you mentioned that several times.
I was thinking of giving this place 5 stars, but I'm kind of teetering on 5 stars or 1 star.
Oh, no 1 star, please. What can we do?
I mean, I could probably be persuaded with some free desserts.
Let me get that for you.
While touring the kitchen, Gordon asks if there are any males working behind the line. Amy said the kitchen is too small to work with a man and his ego. Samy says he is the only male his wife needs in the kitchen. She says she has had males in the kitchen before, but finds their standards are below hers when it comes to cleanliness. Chef Ramsay asks to put the haters on the back burner for now, and if he can take a look at the kitchen. This is probably the only kitchen that, well, maybe another restaurant. I've watched a lot of these episodes, but I think, yeah, this is probably the cleanest kitchen on the whole series. It's pretty cool. It's nice to see that. It's refreshing that they actually take care of their kitchen. To his surprise, the kitchen is clean and well organized to the point where he calls it a pleasure. After Gordon meets the 3 other staff members, he sits down with Samy and Amy to get to know their backstory. Amy says they were married after 5 months of knowing each other and have been together for 10 years. Hi, Anxious Potato. Good to see you. Amy says she prayed for him and God sent him to her. Samy gives himself the last name Hefner and says Amy wanted nothing to do with him at first. Amy says Samy was a ladies' man in Vegas where they met, and the two were around many beautiful women because Samy knew how to attract them. Sounds like a bad joke. Although he did invest $1 million into the restaurant, so maybe he had cash to flash back then. The party was over when he married Amy because she is individual or nothing at all. While discussing how Samy was a developer who built houses before investing in Amy, Gordon interrupts them to say the dessert is delicious. Amy tells him that if she or Samy can't come in to open the restaurant, the place doesn't open, to which Gordon replies,
That's no way to run a business.
Chef Ramsay doesn't seem to believe them when they say they can't find qualified people to help them with the business in all of Arizona. You know what, it's funny. She gets accused of serving baked dessert or frozen desserts, baked goods. But I think she did bake them all. Like I feel like if they would have found some frozen desserts in there, the show would have showed it because they show some of the other dishes. Samy says they can't trust people, while Amy says people are dirty and lazy. Gordon is shocked to find out they have tried hiring about 100 people in the last year or so, most quitting on the first day. I wonder why. But that's not their only problem, which confuses Ramsay.
Online bullying.
Say right that I have to storm.
They say the hate train left the station about 2.5 years earlier when a guy came in for a margarita pizza and told Samy that it was frozen pizza. We can only imagine how the couple reacted that day. But the next day, the guy left a review online about his experience, which we read earlier, to which Amy took offense and jumped online to defend her honor. Gordon is confused as to why Amy would go online and start insulting the man's intelligence when she would be better off ignoring them. She says she needs Chef Ramsay to tell people that what she is doing here is perfect, and that with his experience in the kitchen, people would listen to him, hoping to change their bad reputation. Ramsay says that if all the food is as good as their dessert, then there is something not quite right here. Wait until he observes their behavior during dinner service, then he might figure it out. Chef Ramsay asks Samy if he is a control freak, to which Samy says he is, and so is Amy, and that they need to be cloned because they work so hard. When asked if they have children, Amy says,
We have 3 little boys, but they're trapped inside cat bodies.
She even speaks their language and mimics the meowing pattern of one of their cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
After their conversation, it's funny, in the episode, they're saying that Amy says she can speak cat, and then she does that, but she's actually just telling them how her 3 cats all have different meowing patterns, and that was one of them. An interesting pattern. It's funny because they were like, "Oh, she's talking cat." This is a episode of Kitchen Nightmares. And it's Amy's Baking Company. Gordon comes to the conclusion that Amy agrees with.
You are both fucking nuts.
I know.
Chef, they call the show to get them to help them revamp the restaurant. Like they're supposed to change up the menu and renovate the restaurant. Just help them out with the things they're slacking. Most of them have unorganized kitchens. This one's that's not their issue with this. They have other issues. Ramsay is ready to try the food. He finds out that his server has been working there for 1.5 months and that she doesn't know if the tips are good or not because she doesn't get to keep them. I saw a few of the episodes, the newer ones. It's neat that they're starting it again.
Say that again.
He tells her that she is probably the only server in the country who doesn't get tips. It gets worse because we find out that the tips are actually going to Samy. When Gordon confronts Samy about not tipping his staff, Samy says that when he has someone who can do their job without him having to interfere, then they can have the whole tips to themselves. He claims he does most of the work and asks Gordon if he watched him take 3 orders and send them to the kitchen. Gordon reminds him that he is the owner, meaning he gets the profits from the sales, whereas the servers do not. He again says he does most of the work. Seeing the conversation going nowhere productive, Chef Ramsay tells Samy he is ready to order and proceeds to tell him what he would like to try. Gordon orders the gnocchi, asking if it was made fresh. Samy says it usually is, but not today, because they didn't have time to make it, which means they have a bag for the days they don't have time, or they never make them fresh and they are always bought this way. Why would they have them if they weren't planning to use them? He decides to go with the ravioli without knowing if it was homemade or not, since Samy made it seem they had fresh pasta, but not fresh gnocchi. Gordon tells the camera that the story is becoming a little clearer, remember, he's only just begun. The chef's order is in the kitchen, and Amy is sure that once Gordon tastes her food, he will be able to tell that
This is what God wants me to do.
When Gordon hears a doorbell going off every few minutes, he asks the server what it's for. You might think it would be used by the kitchen to let the servers know the food is ready. Not this one. It's actually to let the kitchen staff know there are dirty dishes out there so they can go get them. Ramsay wonders why the servers can't just take them back and says it's the first time a dishwasher has ever used a doorbell. While waiting for his food, Chef Ramsay notices that Samy is the only one using the system to send orders to the kitchen. When Gordon asks Samy why he doesn't train servers on the system so he is free to do other tasks, he says he will show them when the time comes, so never. Chef Ramsay asks the server if she's used a point-of-sale system in the past and how many jobs she's had. She says she's used systems at every other job she's had, which was a lot. You can tell Samy doesn't like this conversation. He just doesn't want to share the tips. The conversation is cut short when the pizza arrives. Gordon cuts up the pizza as he likes to dissect it to get a good look inside before tasting it. So far, he says it's not crispy. He gives it a taste, saying it is very sweet, then pokes it a few times and comes to the conclusion that after all this time he spent waiting, it turns out
My dough's raw.
Samy tells Gordon that he doesn't know why it would come out that way today, since people always love the pizza, contrary to what we witnessed the previous evening. Gordon proceeds to tell Samy that the pizza is raw, soggy, wet, and too sweet in general. Samy gives it a poke himself, but doesn't say much about it. Gordon asks him to take the pizza back to Amy, thinking he would show her the raw dough. Samy says, of course. In reality, he handed the pizza to one of the servers, who put it with the rest of the dirty dishes. Amy asks Samy for Okay, so the doorbell thing, they don't really show it more throughout this episode, or I guess episode, but like that night at service too. It looks like the servers are just taking the plates back. I wonder if they figured out it was kind of not a very good system. I'd say it was just more of a control thing where Amy and Samy didn't want anyone coming in the kitchen who didn't need to, because Amy seems like she needs it. Like they said, there's no talking in the kitchen, so she probably needs complete silence in order to remember what she's doing. Gordon's feedback, but he doesn't give it to her. Instead, he tells her not to worry about it because everything is okay. Samy explains that Amy doesn't take criticism well, and that if he were to tell her what Gordon said, she would be shaking and say,
That's it, I'm leaving.
Samy tells Chef Ramsay that he didn't even Okay, wait, I want to watch that again. For what Gordon said, she would be shaking and say,
That's it, I'm leaving.
Samy tells he like puts his hands on his hips. That's it, I'm leaving. Mimicking Amy. Tells Chef Ramsay that he didn't even tell his wife about the pizza because she would get nervous. Gordon asks if he's scared of telling his wife the truth. Samy suggests Gordon go back and tell Amy about the raw dough. Ramsay says he just wants her to know so that she has a chance to change the next one. Ramsay tells Samy he's been waiting for 75 minutes and has only tried the undercooked pizza, and that he's starving. Samy tells him he will let Amy know that he is starving and she will get it out quickly. When the burger arrives, Gordon lists off the ingredients and gives it the sniff test. The first issue is the amount of butter on the bun. The burger isn't medium rare as he usually orders it. Do you see that dripping? Oh my god, it'd be such a soggy burger. And then like the grease on his fingers from the bun. And when he tries to take a bite, it starts dripping all over the plate. He comes to the conclusion that it is unnecessarily complicated, and the food goes into the garbage without Amy seeing it again. Gordon receives the may or may not be freshly made ravioli and asks the server how... Okay, remember this ravioli because it just keeps coming up. The salmon burger he ordered is coming along. She makes the mistake of asking Amy how much longer for the salmon burger. Amy says it's on its way. She doesn't have to tell them it needs to go out because they already know. She tries to explain Gordon asked about it while the other kitchen staff passes her the salmon burger. For some reason, Chef Ramsay had not tried the ravioli before the salmon burger reached the table. He did, however, say that the ravioli smelled weird. He tries the dish, uncertain if it will be sweet or spicy. He dramatically says it's one of the most confused raviolis he's ever tasted in his life. When Samy comes to check on Gordon, he asks if the ravioli is store-bought, which Samy confirms, forgetting he said the pasta was homemade earlier. He moves on to the salmon burger, hoping it would be edible. His verdict? Overcooked but suitable for Amy and Samy's 3 boys. He tells the server that the burger tastes like dry cat food. Hopefully she doesn't tell Samy and Amy that. It's time for the confrontation. Gordon starts off by saying the wait was long and there were a few problems with the food. Gordon tells Amy that he's going to come back for dinner service later, see how the kitchen functions, then they can discuss the issues. On the way out, Gordon gives the servers some money, telling her that the tip is just for her. Samy watches the interaction closely. As she accepts the money, she looks at Amy, who has smoke coming from her ears, knowing that the tip wasn't going in her and Samy's pockets. Amy and Samy have a quick meeting in the walk-in, where Samy tells her not to worry and to keep doing what she's doing. She says she is worried about his opinion, but Samy reminds her that he liked her dessert. Chef Ramsay is in the kitchen. Amy tells him that she is the only one who makes the pizza, and that she has had people tell her that it is the best they have ever had in their life. The same can't be said for the most confused ravioli Gordon has ever seen. Chef Ramsay asks Amy how she makes her dough. She tells him it's a secret recipe, and again says that a lot of people tell her it's the best pizza they ever had. Now that pizza doesn't look too bad, but the one Ramsay had was pretty gross looking. He asks her when was the last time she took criticism. She recalls a lady who ordered a Caesar salad the other day who did not like the croutons on her salad. Amy says that they are on the menu, and if they don't like it, they can have it without it. Then adds,
Simple.
Amy says she can take criticism, but only the constructive kind, and that Gordon is just saying things that don't make sense. Gordon says that the pizza he had today was raw, and asks why Samy is too frightened to tell her when there is an issue during service.
That man isn't scared of you. He's not scared of anybody.
Amy says that Samy does tell her when there are complaints, but they just don't have many. Gordon says that if he were in her position, he would have been checking her plates when they came back to make sure everything was edible. Amy tells him that she was trying to get feedback, but no one would give it to her, meaning Samy was avoiding upsetting her while she was cooking. Gordon tells her that she doesn't want the criticism because she doesn't want to change. Chef Ramsay goes into detail, telling Amy exactly what was wrong with his pizza today. The dough was undercooked and wet in the middle, and all the toppings were in the center of the wet dough, leaving the crust dry. Samy says he didn't want to make Amy nervous, so he didn't tell her about the wet dough. She asks if the wetness is from the cheese, and Gordon confirms it is not. Amy says she doesn't think his pizza was undercooked. She checked it when it came out of the oven, and it was crispy on the bottom and crunchy when she cut into it, but she didn't see it come back as a dissected pile of dough. He moves on to the beef burger, saying the bun was soggy as ever. He says the toppings on the burger didn't go well together, and asks who came up with the idea. Of course Amy did, and she can't believe it would be the worst flavor combinations ever. Amy walks away saying she has never had a problem with the burger, ever. Gordon says it's because her husband doesn't tell her. He moves on to the salmon burger, which he describes as a dry fish cake in between a dry bun. She hears dry bun and combines the reviews of two different burgers when her automatic response is to ask if the bun was a soggy bun or a dry bun. Then says people tell her all the time that it's good like that. Gordon says there's no point in him telling her any more about her food when she keeps saying it's good like that. He moves on to the ravioli, asking if they are frozen and saying they would taste better if they were homemade. When he suggests taking them off the menu if she isn't going to make them fresh, she goes overboard, saying she should just take everything off the menu and close the restaurant. She says the frozen pasta is not crap and asks if he's tasted it. He said they were disgusting, and of course she says people love it and she's never had a problem with it. He asks her how she would know that when she never gets feedback on the dishes. She suggests real customers love it, unlike the haters. Gordon does some digging and finds the not so homemade gnocchi, no refrigeration required. When he asks Amy what's in them, they don't need to be refrigerated. She tells him to look on the back for the ingredients. He wasn't impressed with that answer. Amy explains that they make everything to order, so it takes time to put together because they don't have pre-made food. Gordon says except the ravioli, to which she agrees. He reminds her that the eggplant is also pre-made, which she explains is so the breading doesn't fall off while cooking. Ramsay slyly remarks, and the gnocchi? Amy gets ready to say something smart by saying she wants him to understand something. He cuts her off, saying he doesn't understand her one bit. Gordon pokes the bear by going out to the dining room and letting everyone know that they are being deceived by the owners. Oh my gosh, it's always so funny when he lets the customers know what's going on in back. Because Samy had him convinced that they had fresh pasta just by saying, oh, we didn't have time to make it today. Sure. Regarding the fresh pasta being frozen, he asked the diners if it would be alright for him to take it off the menu to save them from eating crap. They seem okay with the idea. Gordon tells Samy that he has too much respect for their customers to lie to them about passing the store-bought frozen pasta off as freshly homemade. He asks Samy if he is going to tell Amy or should he do it himself. Meanwhile, Amy's in the kitchen prepping her station with the ravioli. Samy says he will let her know. When he tells her no more ravioli, she starts naming off other things on the menu that she is taking off, such as the burger burgers and that people can only have cakes tonight. Samy walks away saying okay, as if he knows that is the only way to deal with Amy's dramatics. Gordon asks Samy why Amy has a problem with criticism, to which Samy says to ask her why because he has the same problem with her. Chef Ramsay is left speechless. When one of the tables is missing an item they ordered, Samy says the server didn't tell him when relaying the order for him to put into the system, so she digs through the trash looking for the order she wrote down. She shows Samy the slip, and he takes it better than you would think and puts it through the system to the kitchen. The other server isn't as lucky with Amy. Amy tells her which table the order is going to, then corrects herself a second later. The server asks Amy if she's sure, and the look on her face sets Amy off. She tells the server she doesn't need to question her and she can go home right now. Gordon isn't impressed with what he is seeing. The server apologizes and continues out the kitchen with the order. Amy follows her out front, telling Samy that the server has to leave because she's having an attitude. Poor girl's in the background saying no, 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 and trying to explain the confusion. Samy knows Amy is overreacting and tries to talk her out of the decision to send the server home. When Amy returns to the kitchen, Ramsay is more confused about her behavior than he was the sweet and spicy frozen ravioli.
What a little
Amy tells Gordon she's not going to talk to him because she needs to concentrate, then follows it up by saying there is no point in talking to him. The customers are waiting a long... Yes, anxious. They are the owners and she's the cook, or the chef. Hi, Sonia. Long time for their food, and when they get it, they aren't liking it. Chef Ramsay notices that the food is coming back with most of it not eaten. He asks Amy if the servers tell her when they come back like this. She says she's not notified by staff every time someone doesn't lick their plate clean.
No one's licking that.
Amy says to ignore Ramsay. That is what she's doing, just ignoring everything that is happening right now. Gordon takes one of the plates full of food destined for the garbage up. There's another plate no one's licking clean. Up to Samy, asking why the kitchen doesn't know there is a problem with the food. Samy says they didn't like it and says he will bring it up after service. Ramsay tells Samy once again that the kitchen needs to know so they can make the changes for the next time they cook it. Gordon convinces Samy to show Amy the food that came back practically untouched, and she says,
This is all bullshit, so I don't care.
Gordon says he sees a pattern of food not being eaten and going in the trash without Amy being aware that it's happening. She says there's no point in her speaking, so she's just going to work instead. Ramsay notices the $10 tip on the check Samy is finishing up and asks him if he's going to share that with the waitresses. He says no because they make hourly. Gordon asks if the customer knew the tip was going to the owner and not the waitresses, if they would still be leaving a tip. He asks the closest table what they think about the fact that the owner keeps the tips they gave to their server. He gets the answer he was looking for. This doesn't go down well with Samy, who tries to come up with an excuse before Gordon cuts him off, starting this argument in front of some shocked customers.
No, don't. With me.
Yeah, I will with you. Who the f you think you are?
Gordon says he is fed up with Samy's weaseling ways. Samy tells Ramsay not to talk to him in an aggressive tone, saying he himself is the gangster, not Ramsay. Chef Ramsay tells Samy to tell the customers the waitresses are going to get their tips. Samy tells the customers the waitresses do not get the tips. Samy tells Gordon not to mess with him because he will mess with Gordon, before heading into the kitchen asking Amy if all the food has left the kitchen for the evening. She says yes, they are closed. Gordon continues the conversation with Amy, asking how she expects to have good staff when they don't pay them the tips they deserve. She says her husband pays those girls a good wage of $9 or $10 an hour to do nothing, and that if they would do half of what Samy does, then they could have their tips. Gordon calls her deluded. While closing the kitchen, Amy tells the waitress, who she thought was giving her attitude, that she can go. She says okay and walks away. You can tell she was holding back tears as Amy chases after her, saying not to walk away from her when she is talking to her like the control freak she is. She then tells the girl that she no longer works there. The girl starts crying, which makes the vulture swoop in more by telling her not to cry, and acts like she has no idea why she would be behaving this way. Samy tries to smooth things over, but the waitress isn't having it, as she shouldn't. He then turns to Amy, asking her to calm down, that she is just a kid. Then he turns to the waitress, telling her not to worry. She turns around and tells Amy that she wasn't doing anything, to which Amy replies that she had an attitude with her all night. She announces that she quits, but Samy doesn't want her to go, unlike Amy, who is already saying goodbye. Amy had this to say about her after she left, not seeing the irony that she herself has the worst attitude in the building.
He's a poisonous little viper, and I don't allow people to have an attitude in my restaurant.
Gordon sits down with... What a funny statement. She doesn't allow it. Every response she has to someone is just attacking them or defensive. with the couple to discuss the events of the evening. He tells them that he has good intentions, and Amy is already shaking her head, but assures him she is listening. Ramsay tells Amy that he noticed she can't take criticism, and of course, she says that's not an issue. Samy starts telling Amy not to cry, and she says she isn't going to cry and that no one lets her talk. Samy asks to talk, and then tells Amy that both he and Gordon listen to her. Gordon just sits there watching the two speak over each other. Gordon goes back to the fact that Amy isn't being told when food is coming back, mainly because she is avoiding the criticism, and that is why she thinks there is no issues with the food before that night. He brings up the pasta again, and Amy says the sauce is good, and her and Samy think the frozen ravioli is good too. When Gordon asks that they return tomorrow with an open mind, Amy says she doesn't make promises that she can't keep, but she's going to do everything within herself to try. The next day, Chef Ramsay gets an early start with a plan on how to move forward, but when he arrives at the restaurant, he finds that the lovely couple has yet to arrive. He decides to talk to a couple former employees of the baking company to hear about their experiences working there. The lady said that she went to culinary school and was hired as a food runner. Samy told her he didn't like people who went to culinary school because he didn't think they knew anything. She said she was only allowed to bring water to the tables when she first started. She stayed there for a few months with hopes of working in the kitchen. The guy said he was there for... Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. Only allowed to bring water to the table when you should be in the kitchen? Oh my gosh. These people are weird. For a month and mostly bust tables. He talks about how Samy was never in a good mood and could not handle complaints. One of the tasks while working there wasn't part of the job description, so he thought.
He made me wash his car one day. What?
She says she... He looks so mad saying that. I don't blame him though. What a weird thing to do. And he actually did it. I'd be like, alright, I'm done. Bye. Worked there for a year and a half, seeing about 50 people try to work there with no success. She says when there were complaints for things such as raw salmon, the couple would tell them they didn't know how to eat food instead of cooking it longer.
That's insane.
When Gordon returns to the restaurant, the couple asks to clarify a few things to try to clear the air after yesterday's disaster of service. Amy's first issue is with the things Gordon was saying to her while she was trying to concentrate on cooking the food. He asked if they can break it down to discuss one thing at a time. We've returned to the ravioli. Amy says she didn't tell them they were homemade, to which Gordon corrects himself, saying it was actually Samy who told him that. He said either way, it's not fair to lie to customers like that because the ravioli isn't good. Gordon tells Amy that he is there to help but doesn't think she wants to take his advice. She says she does, but when he brings up his review of the burger, she says he didn't tell her what was wrong with it, and that she kept asking him, but he didn't tell her specifics. He says he did tell her, but she refused to listen. She said that he told her the bun was dry and wet, so she didn't know what was actually wrong with it. When he tells her she's confused because he tried 2 burgers, she denied the misunderstanding, only hearing what she wants to hear. When Gordon brings up the way she spoke to the young server, she gets super defensive and tries to justify her actions by putting the blame on the girl's attitude rather than her own. Except she calls her that kid. She then says that she's not going to let anyone hold her hostage to get anything they want from them. Gordon tells Amy that she is over-dramatizing the way the girl spoke to her, asking her if she was sure where the order was going. Samy says they are going to forget about yesterday and start fresh if they plan to continue with the show. Gordon says this isn't about the show, it's about a restaurant in crisis and a delusional restaurant owner that can't take criticism. Ramsay tells them that he met with former staff, even naming them, and was told some horrible things such as how they treat the staff poorly, had them clean their car in the middle of service, and having 50 staff that went through there in the past 2 years. When she denies having 50 people come and go and asks for proof, Gordon calls her bitter. Samy tries to help Amy by saying the former staff is wrong about the number of people who attempted to work there, but instead makes it worse by saying there was actually over 100 people who have come and gone, as if shifting the blame to others. Amy doesn't thank Samy for helping her out with the stats. Gordon asks Samy to tell his wife the numbers, to which Samy says she already knows this. Amy loses her cool and This is just one example, I think, of Amy trying to lie her way out of something and Sammy's just like, just tell the truth about it. There's another moment like that later. Decides it's time for a drink of water. When Gordon suggests she's running off, she says she didn't eat or drink anything yesterday and she needs water. Samy is telling Amy it is okay, just go get some water and come back. She asks him if she's going to criticize her for drinking water too, then says she shouldn't have come here today and that she is going home.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Amy starts talking to herself out back, saying that she can't believe they are listening to her former employees instead of her. When she comes back to the table, she says that she is done because all they have been is attacked. Amy says Gordon insulted her all day yesterday and she held her tongue out of class. Gordon says he just told her the truth. Amy says she didn't tell him the truth by saying nasty things to him. Amy says that Gordon disrupted by talking to her and Samy throughout the night, and that's why she wasn't cooking at her best. When he asks who was disrupting her when she was cooking lunch for him, she says everybody, and of course, Gordon points out that she is blaming everyone else again. Amy says she does her best to make sure their doors don't close because she can't find qualified people. Then suggests Gordon go get the fired waitress, the former kitchen employee he spoke to, and the waitress he tipped, and have them run the restaurant to see how they do. Gordon says they won't come in because they're scared of Amy and embarrassed by the way she treats them. Gordon says she's convinced herself that everything she cooks is perfect. Amy denies it and suggests he looks at all the online reviews. Gordon says to her, "Oh no, not the bullies on the internet again." She assures him they have wonderful reviews about the restaurant, ones she probably reads every night before bed to soothe her damaged ego. Amy tells Gordon he is attacking her restaurant and her life. He says he's pointing out the problems. Samy sits silently, daydreaming of the day right before meeting Amy in Vegas. They wake up Samy when Amy asks him if they can talk to Gordon about what they plan to discuss with him today. Samy says to let him finish saying what he has to say before they move on. Gordon asks Samy if he is going to tell his wife the truth about the problems he has with her being unable to take criticism. Amy says she is aware and fine with the fact that she can't handle anything other than praise. Gordon tells Amy that he thinks she is too far gone, so she suggests they end the show if he feels there is no hope. He says he can't help people who can't help themselves and refuse to accept any advice on how to become more functional in the kitchen. He tells them that it's not normal to go through over 50 staff, have so many items on the menu in such a small kitchen, or for the amount of animosity they've built up over time in the restaurant. Gordon says they have the right to run their business how they want, and he has the right to do the right thing, which in this case is to walk away from the restaurant. As Gordon makes his exit, Samy asks Amy if this is what she wants. She says it is, that she is done participating in the show.
Wow.
Amy asks the production crew if they can remove the microphone. As production removes their equipment from the building, Amy says she doesn't need Gordon's help, and maybe he knows that. That's why he decided to walk away. Once outside, Gordon talks to the camera, saying this is the first time in the show's history that he was not able to help a restaurant, blaming it on their inability to listen. He says in about a year, they have managed to get the community mad at them and have gone through way too many employees. He says their biggest problem is themselves. He believes that any changes he would have made wouldn't have lasted long after his departure. After the show aired, a lot of people went online to vent their anger with how the couple treated their customers. Amy and Samy were quick to respond to the attention they were getting online by replying to comments and making posts defending themselves and attacking others. The couple claimed all their social media accounts had been hacked, that they weren't the ones posting the destructive comments. Shortly after the episode aired, the couple did an interview with their local news station to talk about the reaction they received from the public. Amy says it was so bad that I
didn't want to leave my house. I wanted to crawl underneath my bed.
Amy says they learned not to say negative things on the internet before the filming of the show when she had her first bad review. But that's all she could talk about during filming, so it is possible that she didn't really learn the lesson and is trying to cover her bases when she makes the claim that their social media accounts were hacked, which she says is under investigation with the proper authorities to find out who was behind the posts after the show aired. She said during this interview they were still being hacked, even though they wrote a statement saying it was not them. They must still have had access to the account, along with the hackers. I think the call was coming from inside the house. The lady conducting the interview asked if they can see how people might not believe they were hacked, since the posts didn't differ from their posts before they claimed it was hacked. Amy acknowledges that they are capable of saying those things to strongly defend themselves, but they didn't write the posts on their social media after the show aired. One post was from Samy saying he was taking names and would seek legal retribution against them, Yelp, and Reddit for their plot against the couple. Amy explains how the online posts resembled the previous posts Oh, it's just so funny. Sammy's just kind of sitting there tuning everything out as Amy's going on about this hacking situation that may or may not have occurred. raging at customers, but says it wasn't them posting on their accounts after the show aired. The online frenzy started only an hour after the show aired when they received over 1,000 comments on their Facebook page. The interviewer says there were clips that were unedited and showed how her demeanor changed within minutes from happy to mad. She asks Amy what makes her mood change so quickly. Amy claims that during filming, the restaurant was filled with potential assassins that had been trying to wipe them out for the past 3 years via Yelp reviews. She says the show allowed people who were known to give bad reviews to pose as regular customers. When asked about the tips, Samy says he makes sure the staff get paid. People signed a change.org petition to have the labor board investigate the restaurant for taking tips from servers. Amy forgets the script and says that the most hurtful claim was that they were capable of stealing tips from their staff. They say they pay their staff $8 to $14 an hour, but Amy said earlier they get $9 to $10 an hour. They probably start at $8 an hour and get a 25-cent raise for every 4 months. Their capability to not allow staff tips resulted in this argument.
No.
Don't. With me.
Yeah, I will with you. Who the fuck you think you are?
They held a job fair. Yeah, we watched all the clips of Samy saying that they don't get tips. And Amy's trying to say, oh, well, she didn't really say yes, they do. She was just kind of like, oh, how could people think that? Well, Samy kind of told everyone that. Also, the wage doesn't make sense either. Because, well, she said it was around like, what, 9 or 10? And Samy keeps saying 8 to 14. So here we're gonna watch a clip here where they hold a job fair, and it's $5 an hour plus tips. So they were making it sound like the waitresses weren't getting any tips, and they were making almost $14 an hour. I don't think they were making that much, especially if he's taking tips from the waitresses. Like, you know, he's not giving out much cash for wages. Around the time of this interview, offering $5 an hour plus tips rather than the $8 to $14 an hour Samy and $9 to $10 Amy claimed to pay them in the past. Sounds like staff were making $8 an hour. The change probably came after the labor board investigation, which Amy says cleared them of any wrongdoing. The couple decided to take a tip from Bob's Burgers too, and held a week-long grand opening for the restaurant, opening 11 days after the airing of the episode. Amy says she welcomes the doubters to show them they aren't the type of people portrayed in the show. She said during filming she had a meltdown that was witnessed by the masses. The couple told news outlets that they had 12 to 1,500 reservations for the grand opening over the course of a week. They had security guards at the door when their 5 p.m. service started to filter out the real customers from the trolls. Amy said she planned to donate 10% of what they make that week to a cyberbullying awareness group. There weren't many people outside the door when they opened, but if you didn't have a reservation, you weren't allowed in. No exceptions.
You can't buy this kind of advertising.
After this interview, they decided to stop talking. It's kind of hard to hear that guy when he said, you can't buy this type of advertisement. To media outlets due to a potential lawsuit from Kitchen Nightmares. They signed a participant agreement which stated that they were not to speak ill about the show after taking part in it, or they'd have to pay $100,000 each. Of course, people wanted to know more about the couple, so they did some digging and found out a few things. Samy was potentially going to lose his citizenship. The case had been opened 2 years prior to the show airing. Samy had spent some time in prison 10 years prior before moving to the United States for drug and intimidation charges, and was banned from France and Germany. We'll see how this plays out later. Amy has had money troubles since the 90s when she was in her 20s. While living in Colorado in 1998 and 9, she had to pay $14,000 due to 4 instances where she was convicted of theft and forgery, receiving 4 years probation. After moving to Arizona in 2000, she was sued for $3,200 due to unpaid debts, possibly rent. In 2001, when still living in the state, she committed bank fraud when she tried to get a loan for $15,000 using someone else's social security number. She was arrested 14 months later in 2002, and the next year pled guilty to the felony. At the time of the case, her name was ironically Bossingham. She was already on probation from the charges in Colorado and sentenced to 14 months in prison, over $35,000 to be paid to the bank, followed by 3 years probation. But she didn't serve her sentence at the time and stated that during the time of the bank fraud, she was going through a divorce and had just lost her mother. She met and married Samy in 2004 after meeting in Las Vegas, opening opening the infamous restaurant in 2007. I can only speculate that there was a court battle up until 2008 when Amy went to serve her prison sentence. I wonder who was in the kitchen while she was serving her sentence. Maybe they were close. In trying to shave off some time on her sentence, Amy thought it was a good idea to tell the court that she donates her time and money to a Catholic youth organization, a fraternity within the police forces, and the Republican Party, all in Arizona. She says she volunteered during the 2006 elections when Bush Jr. was elected president. Amy was released after 14 months and returned to the bakery. Talking to the press about their convictions, they said they made mistakes and did their time. Samy said the FBI and IRS knows all about him and assures us that he has committed no crimes in the United States. The two were considering doing their own reality show after the grand reopening, but that didn't happen. Someone filmed their interaction with Samy outside the restaurant when they say they were kicked out for trying to read the menu. Samy probably saw the camera and lost his temper. He chased them off outside, then returned inside, but the camera guy tries to enter again. The lady sitting by the door starts yelling that she will call the cops while a server approaches the door. Samy returns from the back, this time chasing them further away from the entrance.
Is this how you treat the customers?
You, you're not a customer.
I'm not a customer. I was looking at your menu, dude. Is this seriously how you treat the customers? Is it? No, he's...
Get out before I call the police. Go.
What the fuck are the cops gonna do?
Go, you motherfucker. You want to go, you motherfucker.
Keep saying to the camera. You too.
They tried cashing in on their attention by selling merch with their logos and catchphrases on them.
Becoming a tourist attraction where they basically make fun of themselves, I think is the only way for them to survive.
Here we see Samy showing the t-shirts. 2 days before the airing of Kitchen Nightmares' return to the bake shop, an episode of Dr. Phil aired where the couple wanted to tell their side of the story and explain their behavior. Samy claims Kitchen Nightmares set them up to seem more dysfunctional than they really are, and when it comes to his staff, he is well organized and courteous. Samy tells Phil that the people who came in to order were people who had left bad reviews and were sought out by Kitchen Nightmares to provoke them. Phil wonders why they react to people trying to get a reaction and says production can only do so much editing and that what was filmed was their behavior.
You don't throw gas on a fire.
Samy wonders if Phil wants him to react this way instead. The audience reaction is great.
You're playing into their
What do you want me to
hands.
do, to bend over? No.
Phil wonders,
Are those the only two choices? Bend over or go on the attack?
Amy says they weren't allowed another choice. That's why they are here, because the world was introduced to them in a negative light.
All they had to do was cook the salmon a little longer, maybe throw the pizza back in the oven for a couple minutes, but no, they're gonna yell and scream and tell people they're wrong and to get out of the restaurant.
Amy uses a snake analogy to describe the way they react to what they call customers.
You don't mess with a snake in the desert and go poke it unless you expect to get bitten.
She was totally going to say, unless you deserve it.
And if we bite you, you're gonna go down.
Phil tells them that there are consequences for their actions, and when they reply to comments online, they're starting a conversation that leads to more outrage. His advice for them is to log off. Spoiler alert, they stay logged in.
Unplug here.
Do we have to unplug our phone at our business?
Yes, what I'm telling you is turn your phone off and close your business. Seriously, is that what you're hearing me say, or do you just want to argue?
Samy speaks up for Amy, saying she is looking for his advice. Amy repeats him, to which Phil tells her she just wants to argue and be right. Phil's advice is to stop feeding the trolls and to not engage with the haters. Amy feels they have been unfairly attacked, so they attack back. She says they have to take their phone off the hook because people are making so many prank calls and making fake reservations online. Amy says she's kept record of all the things people are doing to them to build their case, similar to the post Samy wrote, then later claimed it was the result of the hacking. Kitchen Nightmares sends a brave...
Yeah, that's another reason why I don't think the hacking was real. Because they just keep saying that they're gonna seek legal retribution against everyone.
camera crew into the restaurant to have Ana Garcia interview the couple. The show catches up with some people outside of the business before visiting the restaurant. First, they meet with a former server. She tells them that the day the show packed up and left, the couple fired everyone, saying they could do it all on their own. The next day, she gets a call from them begging for her to return. She was kind of setting herself up for failure, but agreed to go back. She said Samy and Amy saw her accept a tip from someone and accused her of stealing, so she threw the bill at them and quit.
Told them, don't ever talk to me again, I'm done with this place.
Next they talked to reporters with the Phoenix Business Journal, who decided to give the restaurant a try, but their experience wasn't as pleasant as they had hoped. They ordered drinks and noticed something in the glass that looked like bugs. Samy said it was from the lemon, but brought them another one which also had bugs in it. He accused them of bringing the bugs in and planting them in the drinks. Samy proceeded to tell them over and over that they had to go.
I'd say those bugs were chilling in the alcohol bottles that they probably don't sell a lot of alcohol, so they probably sit there for a while, collect bugs.
When asked for a statement regarding the situation, Amy said,
"We understand that there is a possibility perhaps one fruit fly made its way into the martini, but after the third time of being sent back, we felt that it was a setup."
We didn't plant the bugs in there.
And it's funny, like, Samy wouldn't go look in the bottle, but I mean, he wouldn't be wrong, right? So why would he?
Still wanted to try the dessert, but of course lost their chance. So they had a waitress from another restaurant down the road go in and pick up a piece of cake. When they got it, it had a fingerprint in it from someone not picking it up carefully. Of course, Amy had something to say about that too.
"I can only hope for their sake whoever did stick their finger in it didn't double dip, because it certainly was not us."
When the camera crew shows up at the restaurant, Amy was ready to call for backup, but Samy tells her to be cool. Watch how Samy greets the crew.
Amy, just sit down. Don't worry.
How are you?
Kitchen nightmare.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yes.
Can we come in and talk?
Yes, you can come.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank
Please
you.
come in.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Samy is still waiting for the white chef coat to emerge from behind the crew. Amy's not feeling as welcoming.
Do you have a few minutes for us?
No. Samy asks to be paid for their time because he says the show made a bunch of money from their antics, then adds,
Gordon Ramsay tried to bury me alive. Who he wants, I will bury him first. I will bury him first and bury your kitchen nightmare also.
He claims the show set them up by trying to bury them alive, but they haven't done it yet and he won't let anyone do it. Amy starts filming the crew while talking on the phone, and Samy says this because Ramsay wasn't fair to them and he should not have presented them in such a negative way.
Hey, Gordon Ramsay, to himself.
Amy tries showing Anna something on her phone, but is interrupted when Samy starts yelling about Ramsay again, and she agrees with what he is saying.
Who is he?
Okay, watch how she just totally agrees with everything he's yelling about.
He has no balls. He's jealous of
It's like she's just trying to shut him up.
my balls.
Yes, Billy.
This is what he is.
Amy says after watching the episode, she can see all the dysfunction, but says they made them look worse than they actually are, and showed none of the good things they filmed. Amy claims the people who were on the show were people who were already Yelp reviewers. She says they were posting their activity online, leaving her to believe they were sought out by the show. Amy says her and her husband aren't delusional or crazy, but instead passionate and wild.
If I came after you, you would probably stand up too.
Amy gets animated while showing what people do now when they enter the restaurant.
Walk through my doors, come casually over here, like this, walk over, look at the display case, keep going like this, and then leave.
She gets distracted from her thought when she says the waitresses tell her about them coming and going so quickly, and branches off into how they have waitresses now so the whole world doesn't think they steal tips. I think they tried hiring food runners rather than servers in the past so that they could make them think they weren't entitled to tips. She says she took all the negative things they learned from being on the show and improved on them. Anna asks Samy about the tip situation, and he responds by saying he pays a high hourly wage, so he isn't expected to give them their tips. Samy says the waitresses get money even on slow days, rather than just standing like this waiting for tips.
They wait like this.
Anna asks Samy if letting them
Yes, that's another one that's pretty funny.
this waiting for tips.
They wait like this.
Anna asks Samy if letting them keep their tips was a good thing that came out of the show, to which he repeats himself, saying when they are slow, they don't get tips. Contrary to what Amy says when Anna tells her that she hasn't been able to find anyone that has said they saw the restaurant filled with customers. Amy points out the camera crew and asks how they are supposed to conduct business with things like this constantly going on. Amy shares a story about a bored guy who went in just to leave a rubber cockroach on a plate and walked out without even buying any cake. She says her restaurant has become a tourist attraction, describing it as
It's like Disneyland for the crazies.
when asked about any changes in their menu, Samy says Gordon can keep his menu for his own restaurant. They also confirm that they still use the same frozen ravioli. Anna suggests Samy was shielding Amy from any complaints about the food, and he says,
Because it's not true. Because my wife's food is excellent.
Samy forgot about poking the raw dough. Amy says the couple doesn't keep secrets from each other, and that
Gordon Ramsay was full of shit.
Amy says when people come in and try their food, they're shocked at how good it is and wonder,
Are we being punked?
I got punked. Good
butcher. He's got this fucking show back.
When asked if they have returning customers, Amy tells her that there are always new people coming in, surprised that the couple aren't how they were portrayed on the show.
None of it was scripted.
He adds that he has enough money to keep his business going until the stupid people get smart, because then they will return to eat. Samy claims he is a reformed gangster, no longer in that line of business. He says when he told Gordon he was a gangster, he meant to intimidate him to let him know that he wasn't going to take his criticism. He says he will come out on top with Ramsay or anyone else when arguing. When asked if they had a message for Ramsay, Amy says that for all the respect she had for him, she is asking him to please set the story straight, tell the truth, and give them a real chance. Samy cuts her off with,
Who is it to give you a chance? Because he tried to destroy us.
Samy says they don't need another chance, and Amy tells him that Ramsay is in control of all these cameras and the editing that made them look unpleasant.
None of it was scripted.
Samy asks Amy if she thinks Ramsay is really going to say he was joking and the food is good. Amy thinks for a moment, then replies,
Yeah, I think you should do that if he's...
No, he won't do that, Amy. You're asking too much. He can't.
Sammy tells her that Gordon wiped his hands at the restaurant and is moving on, keeping the truth to himself. Amy says she lost respect for Ramsay when he said he wouldn't fire the waitress for giving her this type of attitude.
4B. No, 5B. Are you sure? You don't need to question me, Katie. You can go home right now.
Amy starts calling Ramsay names and then starts on the trolls again for being too scared to go in and complain to their faces, hiding behind their keyboards instead. Sounds like they're looking for a fight because anytime they're faced with complaints, they lash out and get in altercations with customers. When asked about the hacking allegations, Amy had this to say while Samy either agrees or doesn't want her talking about it.
This is the other instance of her clearly making something up or denying something, and Samy is just like, what are you doing? You're just making it worse for us.
About it, shaking his head no.
Every single post that was written calling people shit and making fun of them for not making money did not come from us. We didn't say those things.
Now that the fire has been lit inside them from the trolls, the posts after this filming is them. Then she claims later that they were still being hacked. Samy doesn't know what's going on, looking like he's about to pass out. Amy thinks this is part of the motivation for coming into the restaurant to disrupt their business.
People come here to try to set us up because they think it's funny because they have a hard-on for Gordon Ramsay.
She says they aren't going to take it.
Twisted Sister's very own Dee Snider.
We stood up to Gordon Ramsay.
Twisted Sisters, yes. Dee Snider.
We're going to stand up to the world.
I need to concentrate on Dee's table, yes?
Because we don't go down without a fight.
Dee Snider.
Amy goes on to say that they want to show what they truly offer here at
Amy's big company.
In 2014, an incident was recorded outside the restaurant where Samy came charging at someone with what looked like a knife. He claimed it was a pen to intimidate a guy who he says came into the restaurant intoxicated. He called the guy a liability and said he was becoming a danger to his wife. He says the video released by TMZ didn't show what led up to the confrontation. He said he and Amy will release the full video later, but I don't think they ever did. He spoke about the incident with a local news crew, during which Samy claimed that Gordon harassed his wife in the kitchen. He said Amy could tell them about it, but she doesn't want to, so Samy says they are choosing to forget about him and the show. I thought his Richard Dawson style of kissing all the women on the show was a bit of a bubble burster. I get that it's a greeting, but it's too close to get to a stranger.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Good to see you. Who's the head chef?
I am.
Hold on, stop. Holy crap, you got lucky.
I'm the lucky one.
In a 2021 interview, the couple explained that they called Kitchen Nightmares because they were getting negative reviews on Yelp and looking for advice on how to navigate social media. Instead of taking the show's advice, they acted like Whistling Willie.
That does it! I've had enough! All you Yelp reviewers, get the hell out of here! I don't care what happens to my business. I ain't kissing your asses no more! Go on, every Yelper, get the f*** out of here!
Careful now, Bill. You don't want a one-star review.
You're not a food critic, Dennis! You're a f***ing mechanic! Now get the f*** out! Go on! All you Yelping sons of just get the f*** out of here!
Amy said on the first day the crew showed up, they moved things around while setting up, which had Amy disoriented because she was used to everything being in certain places. This led her to believe they were setting them up for failure. She said they sabotaged their POS system.
Cannot work. I cannot work. I can't.
It made it look like Samy didn't know what he was doing in the dining room, so the kitchen wasn't getting orders. Remember when Amy said in her audition video that Samy needed to vacate the property? It couldn't have been a Samy error, could it? They say the show brought in people who they said were customers, but were really people who had left negative Yelp reviews. I wonder if this is something production does regularly for other restaurants on the show too.
I have seen them do that in a couple shows, I think, where they had brought up that they were getting a lot of negative reviews online. So then Gordon eventually says, these are all the people that left the bad reviews. You just served them tonight, kind of thing. So I'm wondering. They probably didn't want to tell them if they did anyway.
Amy mentioned
after the way that they reacted. Now this is an interesting little piece of information about what happened here. Amy says what it was that set them off on this guy.
the one pizza guy and recalls what it was that set Samy off on him and his friend.
He actually said, "Why don't you tell your whore wife to hurry up with my pizza?"
Amy says that after they decided to stop the show, she didn't expect them to air it, but they did. She got a call from the producers not long before their episode aired. When she watched the show, she says they were mortified at how the show portrayed them as defensive, combative, and unable to take criticism.
None of it was scripted.
She brings up the frozen ravioli and the doughy pizza, saying,
"My accent was soggy a little, and if you peel off the fresh mozzarella, you're gonna have a little tiny bit of moisture."
Look at all the fingerprints in that dough. Janelle, you totally should have went. At least get a dessert.
This is one sad-looking pizza. Amy says this guy pushed Samy first, which made him react the way he did, but the show edited it out and only showed this interaction. They try to justify their taking of the tips by saying they paid their servers $14 an hour. When asked in the past, they would say $8 to $14 per hour. Amy might not have even known how much they were making, considering she said Samy pays them well. Amy still sticks with the story of her account being hacked.
So this is the evidence that they gathered in 2013. So now, Amy's going to show us that somebody else was trying to log into her Facebook from Los Angeles. But they were in Arizona still at this time.
Saying she initially responded to people, but the really bad stuff was due to a hacker. In 2013, Amy recorded this as evidence that someone in LA had signed in to her Facebook.
Thanks to someone who has helped me, I am capturing someone who is not allowed to be on my Facebook page.
Amy claims it was the production crew from the show that hacked in, but did not mention which posts in particular they were responsible for creating while pretending to be the couple. The two always lashed out online before and after the show, so it would be difficult to spot the difference. Amy had lived in California for a time before moving to Arizona, so it could be someone she knows there logging in, or it could possibly be the Kitchen Nightmares cyber hack division.
And so the end begins.
In 2015, the two decided to pack up and move to California. They closed shop and Amy released a baking cookbook. After the move, Amy became a self-proclaimed master cannabis baker. We see a couple photos of a young Samy as Amy explains that they moved to Israel in 2018 after Samy had to leave the US. Amy said it was actually the day after the show aired that they went to court to find out that he was being deported, something they avoided confirming with the media for many years.
No.
Why is the government trying to deport you, sir? Why is the government trying to deport you, sir?
Everybody, it's not your problem.
Buzaglo may be under ICE investigation because he did not disclose his past on his U.S. immigration petition.
They paid $250,000 to try to fight the immigration case, but in 2018, they left California for Israel.
We live right on the beach.
This is our patio. This is our building.
And we're getting ready to open a bakery downstairs.
It was a dance studio.
Amy says she's been working on becoming a master baker. As of 2023, Amy still posts on her Instagram account as a baking wizard, sharing her desserts with the world. She has finally taken the confused frozen ravioli off the menu. Samy also has an Instagram, but hasn't used it much in the last couple of years. It consists of some cat cuddles and gangster movie references. While Amy bakes, Samy is enjoying retirement.
That's it. Hope you enjoyed that one. I know it took me spending a lot of time with these two the last week or so. It was interesting doing something different. I think I'll put a poll up later too to see which TV show I should do another one on. Thought this was fun. I haven't really been watching much of the Amberlynn stuff. I saw today she got a new piercing. She now has 4 holes in her nose. No, it looks good though. It's cute. Booty's coming back to Canada. Another update. Did you guys see her trolling about her weight loss the other day? Oh my gosh. She's always up to something. I think she was logging off for a few days last time I checked, but I haven't checked in a couple days. She's probably still already back on there. Yeah, so if you guys have any suggestions of another show that I could cover, I'll do that. Do an episode of something. These are neat because, you know, a lot of TV shows are, there's a storyline for each episode. Well, not each, but the storyline continues for each episode, whereas these ones here, it's usually just one episode per restaurant. Sometimes there's the follow-up ones. Those ones are kind of neat too to watch. But yeah, I guess I will shut this down for today. That was fun. I like doing these lives. They're different than our other lives, but yeah, so I have just this video up. Kat Vinci, hello. 90 Day Fiance, that's a good one. I'd have to try to find, if you just cover one couple even, oh my gosh, that would take forever. Yeah. Alright, well, I guess I'm gonna shut this down. Right, what I was gonna say was that we are gonna I'll premiere this one on my other channel tomorrow of just the video. And if you're looking to just watch it straight through, it's on my Daily Motion in 3 parts. I can only upload like 4 gig videos at a time, so that's why they're always in parts on that one. But yeah, alright, well. Anxious Potato, Sonia, Janelle, Kat Vinci, and